if I had a tombstone, I don't think I'm going the tombstone route, but if I had a tombstone, I wouldn't be mad if someone put like, my tagline would be put an egg on it. Because I think of yeah, I think a fried egg on everything is very, very yummy.
Some egg restaurateur is going to walk by your tombstone and be like, excellent
That's it.
slogan.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Not to throw you on the spot, but if when you pass, what's your tagline?
Okay. So I had this one. I don't want to honor this anymore, but I've always had one, and it was like I guess like here lies Mariana Ramos, and then my tagline would be like, she was almost on time, because I feel like I arrived late to my death.
Okay, speaking of timing, because we did this out of order.
We did.
Normally we say, "Who are you?" I ask you to introduce yourself today.
Okay.
So late, better late than never. It's on theme.
Okay. So who am I today?
Yeah.
Okay. So today I'm a tarot reader and a student of astrology. I am a 31-year-old Latina with a marketing background living in Medellin, Colombia, having just come back to my country after living in the States for 20 years. And today I am somebody who upheld a boundary and was actually super clear about her role in a very complicated dynamic. And I'm very proud of me today.
Very proud of you as well. Amen.
Thank you.
We all uphold our dynamics that need to be upheld. I imagine that this is tied into liberation. I want to get back to sort of what made you move back to can maybe be referred to as the motherland. I'm not sure if that's a term we still allow. All the terms are going away. Something about it feels weird, but also right. What is liberation?
I think discipline is liberation.
That's an
That is a
answer we
quote.
haven't heard. Oh,
That
it's
is
a
a
quote.
quote.
Nice.
I can't take credit. I'm a reader. I'm a writer. What can I say? Yeah. So I got that from Jane Fonda's autobiography, and that she published in 2004. And she talks about this coming from an ballet theater that she used to walk by every day in New York. And outside of it, like I guess on the door of the theater, it said, "Discipline is liberation." And I think that to me, that meant like sticking to not necessarily routine, not necessarily like, oh, you have to be good at this and perfect at that, and boom, that's liberation. No, I think it's about staying true to yourself, the discipline that takes, and coming through for yourself the way that you come through with other people. That discipline is so rare and so hard to find. And yeah, just making sure that you're not, so many times the term people pleaser comes to mind. Like, so many of us are now all of a sudden chronic people pleasers. And I agree to an extent, because it's really hard to think independently these days when you have everyone's opinions being thrown at you from every angle, and like, you should stand for this and you should stand for that, and if you don't stand for this, then you're against this, and blah blah blah. And so I think that being able to think for yourself, show up for yourself, and stick to the discipline that it takes for you to be true to yourself, and not necessarily always at the will of others, it takes true discipline. And for me, that's hand in hand with liberation.
Are you disciplined?
Not always, but I'm not perfect either.
So are you liberated?
Not yet, but I'm on my way. I'm getting there. Every time I rebel in the act of liberating myself from things that no longer serve me, I become a little more liberated.
And you think you will get there? You think there's like a finish line that you'll cross?
Yeah, but I think it's personal to everybody. I think it's extremely personal to everybody. Right now, for example, for me, like I know that I will feel truly free the minute that I can make a living fully on my like vocation for the esoteric and the spiritual. That to me will be like truly unchaining myself from the restraints of working for others, working for people that I don't like agree with or necessarily respect or are inspired by. So that's my liberation finish line, and I'm so close. So close.
You don't think like when you get there, something else will just rear its head?
Yeah, but wouldn't I be better equipped to liberate myself from that then, now that I know like what that feels like? I think that I don't think that that's like the bar getting a little bit higher or the line getting a little bit further. I think that that's like a test to see how much I value my liberation, how truly liberated I feel, and if I'm going to let something else take it away from me momentarily or not.
Huh.
And
And
no.
and is moving to return to sort of moving back home after 20 years of being in the States, is that creating a boundary, or is that a calling, or is that a discipline, or yeah?
I think that it was answering a calling. I think it was ending a sort of story that wasn't necessarily written by me, but that I kept trying to fit into, and as
What's
so
that
many kids
story?
as so many kids of immigrants are. Like my mom, whenever we moved to the States, like I didn't have any say in that. I didn't necessarily want to. And but I was young. I was very young. I was like 10 years old. So for me, it was like I kept trying to make it in this country that slowly but surely benefited me less and less. The rat race that is the US, because of like capitalist systems in society, was just not something that like my creative mind and way of being and intuition could keep up with. Even though I had like corporate dreams, like I really wanted to make like Super Bowl commercials. So, so I have like a Don Draper quote in my email signature. Like I wanted to be in advertising big fucking time. And I got very close, but it took a toll on me. And eventually, like that same, you know, the pressure of like, no, but if I don't make it here, then I'm a failure. Even though my entire family is back home in Colombia, throughout this whole time. My mom even moved back eventually. And I don't see them as failures. I don't see them as people that didn't make it, or you know what I mean? I just see them as people that were chipped away at by a country that's just it's hard. It's hard to survive in, especially alone, especially by yourself. And so I came to terms with that, saying like, okay, well, hey, maybe this just story, this setting isn't for me. I don't really want to be in advertising anymore. I got as close as I could get, and now I'm being called somewhere else. So I think, yeah, in a way, it's like answering a calling, coming back home and like getting in touch with my roots and my past, which I feel like, again, immigrant children, um, especially ones that move around a lot, it's kind of easy for us to run away from our pasts and start new. Like we're really good at starting, but like it takes a toll sometimes. Sometimes you make it, sometimes it's great, it works out, it's amazing. But that just wasn't the case for me. So I was tired of trying to fit into a mold just because my mom made a huge decision when I was young.
What does a calling sound like, or maybe feel like?
Yeah, feel. I'm like, I don't know about call, I don't know about sound, but
It's not
it
a bird call.
if no, I wish that'd be a lot easier. Just like Coco, that's me, gotta go. No. it feels it it feels like isolation in a room full of people,
Mm, mm,
just like,
nice.
wow, it feels like purgatory. It just feels like Groundhog Day.
Mm,
It just feels like I'm not really here anymore. Why have I been here for so long? What day is it? I gotta go.
mm.
I got shit to do. I gotta go.
Oh,
Mhm.
Groundhog Day. Nice. Purgatory. Yeah, I
Um,
get that. I feel that. I have felt that. Um, okay, because just I like the opposite side of the coin. It's all just one
mhm.
coin, no coin.
Okay.
Um, how can we tell the difference between feels like purgatory, feels like Groundhog Day, and this so Groundhog Day is Sisyphus, right? Like Sisyphus has to push this boulder up this hill over and over again, and um, the idea that it'll end, but it's
Mhm.
not going to end. And then Camus writes this beautiful book called The Myth of Sisyphus, and he has this line that has always inspired me, and he says, "I have to imagine Sisyphus is happy. No one can be that much of a fool to not enjoy the moment." Right. And so at
Mhm.
some point we get to, we don't have to, we get to arrive into our life,
Yeah.
you know, and to see it in this moment, to open our heart to this moment. And so
Mhm.
what is the distinction between Groundhog Day and maybe there is no answer, maybe there are no words, there usually aren't, but like between Groundhog Day and arriving, or running, or feeling that and that being a pull to run away versus arriving.
So yeah, I mean, for me, like it wasn't like, oh, I'm repeatedly doing the same thing and I'm terribly unhappy, or this is a terrible environment for me. Like, why am I here every day? It wasn't like that. I was surrounded by lovely community, friends, family, well, friends that I considered family, you know what I mean, in LA. For me, I was having the same conversations.
Mm,
I was not, I stopped learning from people and from my environment around me. And it just seemed like every day I walked into the same bar and I'd be like, what's up? Not much. Same shit, different day. And it eventually, and that's not bad, you know what I mean? Like some days it was like, oh, well, this happened yesterday. I'd be like, cool, thanks. I'll take my drink and go sit in my same booth every, so on and so forth. And like, I say bars just because like I was in the industry. So not saying that I was just spending my whole time with bars, but yeah, for me, it was just like, yeah, purgatory has such a negative connotation. This was in no particular way a kind of hell. It was just, I just stopped learning. I stopped learning. I was having the same conversations. People were having the same scenarios. I even think like I remember seeing people like wearing the same shirt like repeatedly, and I was just like, okay, no, he just has two plaid shirts. Got it. Okay, understood. So for me, I think that was the difference. Like when I was, pushing that boulder, I was happy. I was content enough to keep pushing the boulder. It wasn't, I never necessarily didn't see it as a punishment, but um I I think that there's a point where, people always say like, oh, enjoy the ride. Life is about the path, not the destination, so on and so forth. Yeah, but like, we're allowed to have a couple pit stops on the way that make us feel like we're actually headed somewhere. And that was the massive difference for me. Like I felt like when I got to Colombia, um, I was finally talking to people that wanted to talk about spiritual wellness, people that just like, I pulled out, the tarot and they didn't look at me like I was crazy or a witch or whatever. And I started learning from other people. I started learning about other medicines. I started listening, and like that for me, um, signaled that like I've arrived, at least to this pit stop. I've arrived, because now I'm an engaged member again in society. I'm not just like repeating the same thing over and over again.
I think engaged is one of the really beautiful words. Obviously, it's a word I like. Like, this is called engaged liberation. It's it, it means to have your hands in it. But also your sweat and your spit and your eyes, and you're just sort of entangled with it. But
Mhm.
but not entangled. A little more free. You're just engaged. You're
Yeah.
one with it. And Napoleon Hill has this book that has such an intense title called My Conversations with the Devil. Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich. He has his own problems and implications of the time, but he has this book that never got released, and it got released many years after he died, because it was kind of like we weren't putting books out called My Conversation with the Devil.
Uh-huh.
And in this conversation, you can listen to this whole book on YouTube. In
Amazing.
this conversation with the quote unquote devil, the devil tells him that real hell is something called drifting. What I think of when I kind of think of the word sort of purgatory, and drifting is floating along without any engagement in life,
Mhm.
without even realize that you're floating. Just like life happens, to you, not with you. You are not a sort of a part of it. It just sort of pushes you along. Now, the Buddhist in me does like the metaphor that we are on a river and everything is changing all the time. But I believe there is an awareness we can have on that river, so that
Mhm.
we're not just drifting, but we are consciously being moved. Um, and we can be surprised with what's next. But yeah, the devil would talk about drifting, and drifting is lack of engagement. You're just kind of floating along with no awareness. And so I love that word. And I think it also ties into discipline.
Yeah,
It
I
takes
agree.
discipline to be engaged in this life.
That reminds me, we're gonna like cite quotes like the whole podcast. At least we're citing. So that reminds me,
Thanks
I
for
think
citing. That's funny.
that that consciousness that we have on that river, I think it's inherently, I think it's our human right. I think it's inherently human. And I think that that's, again, and Homer said this, from the Iliad, that any moment might be our last. Everything is more beautiful because we're doomed. You will never be lovelier than you are now. We will never be here again. So like, while, yeah, we're floating on this river, you're never gonna, that's the last time you're gonna pass that rock formation. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be conscious of that in order to appreciate the river and you're floating, and the fact that you are being carried through this experience called life.
Have you read the Iliad?
Not since high school.
You read it in high school, the whole thing?
Hmm.
Nice. That
Yeah,
was
I skipped How to Kill a Mockingbird, and I read that and Agatha Christie.
nice. How to Kill a Mockingbird is a book. I'm not saying it's a bad book, but I give a lot of shade to it because we're right now. Brown Enough has been in. This sounds like a super flex, but it's a cool flex. Fuck it,
Congrats.
really beautiful flex. It's in all these high schools around the country right now, which is fucking cool. And I always say it's because we need culturally, at least our young Black and brown youth need culturally relevant books that are not How to Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh no,
Uh,
no one's ever recommended it to me. So I've never
so,
found it.
so I give it a lot of shade in a lot of public settings. Fine book, fine movie. I had to read it in high school, but yeah, it's my anti book we need to read right now.
I had to read And Then There Were None. And so, which is an Agatha Christie typical like murder, who done it sort of thing, and around this gothic setting, and I highly enjoyed it.
Can you talk to me a little bit about tarot, or things you're interested in, and why, and how does that tie into liberation or your discipline or yeah.
Yeah. So, tarot, like most vocations, I think, found me. My first deck, and they say this is traditions, skeptics, whatever. You should always be gifted your first deck of tarot cards. Like, don't really go out and buy it, but I've seen people do different stuff and it works just fine. Mine was gifted to me by someone I don't particularly remember fondly. And it wasn't like a guru and it wasn't anybody. It was like a right-wing conservative like, that just told me like, hey, I think you'd be really good at this. I got this for your birthday. And I was like, whoa, sure, thanks. And so I picked it up. I started reading a few books about it. I got this that I'm hanging on to right now. It's called the Tarot Bible by Sarah Bartlett. And I started studying it, and it really gave me something to understand humans at a time when I did not understand humans. Like I was, it was 2021, living in downtown Los Angeles throughout the like pandemic, essentially from 2020 to 2022, was a really weird purgatory sort of space. And, a protest today.
I
And
remember we might have been at some of the same protests.
we might have been,
Wild.
I got to march with Jane Fonda, which was for climate change. But dealing with like everyone had an opinion at that time because of BLM, because of George Floyd, because of COVID, because of masks and blah, blah, blah. And like, I kind of stopped relating to a lot of people that I was unfortunately working with. And so I confided in the tarot because it's obviously, it's an archetype tool as well. A lot of it based on Carl Jung's archetype studies of the human psyche. And so it really helped me start understanding. I'm like, oh, okay, you're just like going through you're just having a devil moment, like you're unhealthily attached to this one thing, blah, blah, blah. And I started practicing with a lot of people for free. And the discipline is in the practice for me with that 100%. The more that I practice it, the more that I understand it. And then like the more that I won't call it a psychic, but like my predictive powers get sort of amplified. And that to me is like the not the liberation, but like the confirmation that like I am in tune with this very ancient, very esoteric spiritual practice. And that for me feels liberating because I finally have a way of relating and helping others. The number one thing for me is to be of service, however I can, and whenever you do something of service and you do it well, and people keep coming back to you for it, and it's not just like, hey, like you're a really good waitress, so I keep coming back to your restaurant. You're an amazing server, blah blah blah. Like no, like I'm kind of helping you figure out some life shit here, homie, and it's equally as rewarding. So that's how I would tie it into liberation for me. And then, yeah, the fact that I get to get paid for it now, before I did it for free for like 3 years, 4 years. Now that I get money for it, it's like another confirmation. It's another sort of like, hey, you're good at this. Here you go. And that makes me feel liberated from the chains of my brand identity that I've had since I was like 12, like the marketing guru, the advertising entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. I was always sure that was going to be me. And then I got to 29 and it was like a reality slap in the face. And I didn't know who I was for a while because I had to let go of this idea of me that I'd been holding on to for so long. That after I decided I didn't want to be in advertising, tarot picked me up. Tarot was like, it's here. It wasn't there. It's here now. Or, maybe it was there for a while. Now it's here. Now you're finding yourself here. And that to me was a really good way to liberate myself from an attached perspective of who I should be, need to be.
Is everyone first of all, we've said devil a lot in this conversation,
I
which
know.
is just I'm just gonna point that out. What is the devil in the tarot?
So it's the affinity for Capricorn. So it's like the tarot is very tied to astrology. And so it's related to the sign of Capricorn, and it's a card that it's very gruesome. It's quite like jarring to look at it, but it does signal that like there's an unhealthy attachment to something. There is a bind to something that's kind of keeping you from moving forward. So the two people here are chained to the devil, and it's a man and a woman, and you know they're naked, they're in their truest form of expression, and you know it's just like you're kind of tied to your temptations. You're kind of giving in too much into that part of you that's like thirsty for, be it money or power or admiration or whatever.
A lot of thirsty folks out here.
Uh,
A lot of thirsty folks.
It's very unconscious. It's sometimes very unconscious. It's like it's also really it's related a lot to addiction. You know, it's kind of that the dark side in all of us. So, but the way to work with the devil is to be able to look at it in the face and be like, hey, you are a part of me that I want to cut chains with. That you are, but you are a part of me. And in order to, you know, heal that part or sever that bond or move on to greener, better pastures, you know, you have to be able to look at it in the face and face it. And that's why whenever somebody pulls the devil card, I'm like, don't look away. I'm like, I know it's scary, but like, face your demons, face your shadows, greet them, hug them, tell them you forgive them. And now, like, acknowledge, now that they're acknowledged, right? The first step is acknowledging you have a problem, and then you move on. And I always, just to continue the devil theme, I always say like, this card is more of a better the devil you know than the devil that you don't know. And so it's like, this is something you're familiar with. Just let it go.
I think it ties into not drifting, right? Into discipline. And we all have our, you know, I'll stay on theme here. We all have our devils. I think we all have our addictions. We all have our unhealthy bonds. Maybe we don't all, but I think many do. And I think to be disciplined and to be liberated, it doesn't always even mean to be free of them, but it means to see them.
Mm-hmm.
With enough discipline of notice and sight. Like I do believe that's something the Dharma has given me. You know, the Dharma says like we have all had our bodhicitta moment, right? We've all had the moment that says we are capable of enlightenment. We're capable of liberation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you showed up to one Dharma class, if you showed up to one group meditation, if you sat down to sit, you are already enlightened. You know, you are already awake. That's what that Dharma says, right? It's already happened. You know, it's like it's in you. You're capable. After all this fucking karma and stuff you've put in, it's already happened. And so, and then disciplines kind of helps it happen at a faster rate, but it's going to happen, you know, whether in this life or 1,000 lives, it's going to happen. You're on the path, you know. Discipline speeds it up. And I think that's true for the things we are bound to, for better or for worse. Is like, we do the things we know are wrong for us, but we do them anyway. And the more we can name them, the more we can sort of get free of them. But it takes discipline to name them over and over. And it's not about cutting them off right away. It's about naming them, which is about knowing yourself.
100%. And I think to that, you know, they say like, oh, out of sight, out of mind. Therefore, like, unconsciously, you're not thinking about it. You're not necessarily, you know, acting without thinking, because it's out of your sight. But if it's in your sight, then you have the power to remove it out of your mind completely. And you know, sometimes it creeps back in, it creeps right back out. But definitely being able to look at it is what frees you from it. I mean, detachment is so liberating in of itself, but it doesn't come without like grave self-awareness.
All right, so we've got a short window before I have to go teach. I'm gonna put you on the spot. You can say no, and that is, can you? And I'll happily pay for your services. Can we do a quick 3-card spread for me?
Oh my God, yes, yes. Give me one sec. Here they are. Okay. Do you have a question in mind?
I never do. Is that bad? I never do.
No.
I just
No,
like
it's
to.
not.
I just like to be. Whatever's medicine is out there for me. I receive.
You just want to tune in, see what the universe has to say to you. That's totally fair and that's totally cool. Just, a 3-card spread, if it's not necessarily any sort of confirmation for you, you are allowed to ask the tarot for more clarification. We can come back to it later since we have such a short window of time. But generally, it does end up relating pretty easily. So, yeah. And just so you know, this deck is the first deck, the one that was originally gifted to me in 2021. This has helped hundreds and hundreds of people. My own questions, my own energy, my own doubts, fears, and hopes and dreams are on a different deck. So this is all for the people, and this is all for the service. And hopefully the universe has the clearest message it can give you, right? That's what we hope for. Okay, so I'm just going to shuffle one more time. They got a lot of use in Mexico, actually, so that was cool.
Bringing medicine to the people. I hope, I'm gonna sort of share this with everyone, and may there be medicine for many.
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes cards will jump out of the shuffle, and those cards are always extra tidbits, but they have to really jump out. Otherwise, I just shuffle them back in. It's just how I run my show. Okay. So I am okay, and don't laugh at me, but I have to it's part of the magic. I have to close my eyes, and I actually hover my left hand because it's the one closest to my heart over the cards, and I swear to you, my palm feels heat when it's time to pick up a card. Okay, that's it. Here I go. One. Two. Three. Lots of heat in the middle of the pack today. Okay. Cool.
Laughing.
Okay. Sorry. So the first card that I pulled for you is the card of the 6 of Pentacles, the 6 of Coins, which is a card of charity. It is about giving because you have enough to give. It is sort of share your resources. The Pentacles are a card of mostly money, but also just values and tangible things. And like I said, resources. So it's not always just hey, go donate. No, it's keep teaching, keep doing that stuff that you're giving away for free, basically, and to others less fortunate than you. And make sure that you do it fairly. You can't kind of tell because the stupid fake background, but this man is holding a Libra scale on his right hand, and he's giving out of his left. Sorry, that's backwards. And so it's basically just make sure that you are discerning with who you're giving your resources to. Do not take too much from yourself and then give too much to others. Hold it in perfect balance and in perfect scale, because if you tip over, then you'll be giving more than you've got. The Ace of Swords you got there from the middle of the pack, as well as this next card. And that is usually like something new in the sense of an idea, a way of thinking, a communication is going to come through to you. It's going to be like, that's like the hand of God, sort of, coming out of a cloud. It's going to be divinely guided. It might hit you out of left field. It might be something you read in a book. But this new way of thinking or communication, also represents fairness. So like maybe something that you thought was previously unfair, saw justice, or now you have a clear mind for how to make it fair and how to make it like just in a sense. And it definitely has to do a lot with like mentality and intellect. Swords are the suit of like communication, the exchange of ideas, everything that has to do with here and here, the mind and the mouth. And everything that has to do with like diplomacy and logic. So you will be able to face whatever was unfairly done with a new mindset, and lots of applied logic, thanks to some new idea or communication that came your way. And then the King of Cups. The King of Cups is a tricky card for a few reasons. He is kind of an emotional king. He is sorry. It's not emotional in a bad way. He's just the king. The kings are the highest energy expressed in a suit, right? So there's the King of Cups, the King of Swords, the King of Pentacles, the King of Wands, and so it's just a lot of emotional energy that you are hanging on to, perhaps, or like I pulled this card last, so maybe it's if not you, someone in your life that's like emotionally manipulating you, or a warning to not let your emotions manipulate you. Behind him, unfortunately, is kind of a rocky sea, signaling that your emotions, or again, this person holding power over you, is an emotionally turbulent being. But because we pulled it last, I usually see those cards like future cards, right? We like past, present, future, or whatever. I see it as like a warning as to like, hey, like you're doing this, keep doing this, and you'll receive this. And if you receive this well and you act on it, you will avoid this. So yeah, one that's a little longer, one that's a little deeper. I can tell you more, but I think that's pretty clear.
It's very clear. I'm astonished. I'm grateful.
Cool.
I'm blown away. I
Thanks for the
imagine
trust.
others will receive some medicine as well. And tell people how to reach out to you, how to hang out with you, how to talk to you, etc.
Yeah, so I am Con Amor de Marte on Instagram, also known as With Love from Mars. If you search both, you'll find me on Instagram. And on there, my link in bio will take you to any sort of bookings or any what I offer, my current readings and whatnot. And then also I post a lot about like current astrology weather on that channel. So if you're ever wondering, I get a lot of people that text me like, where's the moon today? What's going on with this? Why are we? And I'm like, it's this planet, it's this thing. That's why. Soon I will be launching astrology birth chart readings, but for now, just tarot.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. How close are you to your liberation, do you think?
Oh,
1 minute or less.
some days I think it's in this life. Some days I don't. When I stop thinking that, I think I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's that new insight that you need, that new way of thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I have.
I'm grateful for you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you so much for having me.
Ciao.
Ciao.